This is the longest shutdown by far in our 100-plus year history on Broadway, and our return is still out of reach. This means that workers are out of work. The masks we're all wearing today, actually from the Costume Coalition, a coalition of all the costume shops in this area who service Broadway. We're talking about glove makers, cobblers, milliners, drapers, cutters, beaters, and on, craftspeople and artisans who appear 8 times a week on Broadway. They wow you with what they do, and you never see them. Because Broadway is labor. Yes. On stage, of course, you see fantastic performers. But backstage, musicians, stagehands, hair and makeup, ticket takers, ushers. This is the life force of Broadway, and we are 14 unions strong on Broadway. And obviously, we don't perform for ourselves. We perform for the audience. They're our key partner in that. Last year, 14.77 million people came to Broadway. That's more people than the entire combined attendance of all 10 New York major sports teams. And of that 14, 8.5 million of them were tourists. These are tourists joining with New Yorkers to fill parking garages, hotels, restaurants, shops. Those businesses, too, depend on us. Our economic impact on Broadway is nearly, or rather on New York, is nearly $15 billion. And we're responsible for employing 97,000 people.
In good-paying jobs.
In good-paying jobs. Thank you, Senator. You know this. We're essential to the heartbeat of New York. New York needs us, and we need Save Our Stages. It's my pleasure to introduce Broadway's greatest champion, greatest partner, and greatest hero in Washington, Senator Chuck Schumer.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you, everybody. It's great to be here. We love Broadway. And I'm joined by my colleagues in government, Councilman Keith Powers and Senator Brad Hoylman. I don't know where they went. There they are. Good. Oh. And we have, of course, the great Charlotte St. Martin, who's been the, executive director? What's your title? President of the Broadway League. We have Jim Niederlander, the great producer. Where Jim I saw a minute ago. Here he is. Bob Wankel of Schubert. Nick Scandalios. We have him here, and we have Lauren Reed of the John Gore Organization. And representing the great star power of Broadway, we have Laura Benanti. Come up here, Laura. Give me a fist bump for Broadway. Yeah, good. Okay. Now, as many of you know, I have been on tour because the show must go on. And my tour, this show, well, it's the Save Our Stages push. Look right there. It's right on that billboard right there. Save Our Stages. And the reviews have been amazing. People are jazz hands in their support. Because, and today we take the tour to the Great White Way. Because the phantom of COVID has hit Broadway. Maybe the hardest of all the live venues in America. Revenues have been and still are totally frozen. And guys and dolls, thousands of hardworking guys and dolls from across this city here?
One.
Yeah, put them right here. Just put the mics up here.
Thank you, sir.
I can hold stuff, Mr. Vice.
Yeah, that's okay. Here we go. We fixed it. Take your damn mics back. Come on, Channel 5. That's right. That's a preview. That's where they got to get things right before they go live. Dress rehearsal. Okay, so today we are fighting hard to keep the stages alive, the stories told, and the shows going on. They must go on. And we're fighting to make sure that New York City and Broadway get a Lion King share of federal relief. So let me explain. We all know that Big Apple's live venues, they're small and they're large. They're the lifeblood of New York. Our live venues are our pulse. They're our energy. They're what bring millions and millions of people to come visit New York and hundreds of thousands of people each year to live in New York. The live venues are for the music and the arts and comedy and more. And every one of them, from the large stages on Broadway to the little venues in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, could go under if they don't get help. Why? Very simple. These venues are the first to close under COVID, and they'll be the last to open because, by definition, they need a lot of people together. Whether you're a stage, whether you're a theater on Broadway, or you're a stage in a little live venue that's just having people get started, people come close together. That's why they come to New York. That's why they live in New York. That's why they want to be in New York. And without some help, they will go under. There's no revenues, no ticket sales, no people coming. 75% of artists' income in New York comes from live venues, whether they be the large ones like Broadway or the smaller ones that are throughout our 5 boroughs. Here's good news. There's a bipartisan plan to save our stages. And what's it called? I didn't hear ya. There you go. They don't need much rehearsal. They're very good. Okay, it's called Save Our Stages, and that's why we're here together to push for it. The Great White Way has led the way for so many generations to make this city the envy of the world in the arts. And that's why it's so important to provide dedicated federal funding to Broadway, because it defines New York and it's what we must fight for. Broadway is the beating heart of New York City's cultural life and one of the largest driving forces of our whole economy, our whole huge economy, which represents 7-8% of America's economy. The heart of it is here. When you ask people around the globe what do they love about New York, what's the first thing they say? You got it. So, let me give you a little more background. We got to get money for our subways, too. But we're not talking about that today. Okay. So, as I said, 90% of our independent venues are going to close if they don't get help. There's no revenues. They still have expenses. They have rents. They have utilities. They have mortgages. They have loans. And they'll all be gone if there's no one coming to the box office and buying tickets. So what our bill does is very simple. It provides $10 billion for grants for the next 6 months to our live venues, to our stages. And that money will allow them to get by, and then, God willing, by next spring or so, there'll be the vaccine, and Broadway will fill up again, and our live venues will fill up again. If, God forbid, we don't have the vaccine, we'll try to renew it. And this money is flexible, up to $12 million per You know, the big theaters would get $12 million. The little venues might get a lot less, but it's up to $12 million, and they can use it for whatever they need to stay in business, including paying key valued employees who we don't want to just leave because they are so important. And we got a lot of support for this. Here's who we have, aside from Laura. How about the Foo Fighters? Lady Gaga, one of my favorites. Coldplay, Billie Eilish, Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin. Remember that one? In Gada Da Vida. One of my old favorites. We have Miranda Lambert in New York's Long Island's Billy Joel, Earth, Wind and Fire, Casey Musgraves, Leon Bridges, Jay Leno, Tiffany Haddish, and, of course, Jerry Seinfeld. All of them are supporting, as are the venues across America. And by the way, this is not just a New York phenomenon. There are live venues all over our suburbs in Long Island. There are live venues in rural areas. You ever hear of Branson? It's gone. So we have lots of support from both Democrats and Republicans to get this done. And if we get when we get a big COVID bill, we will get one. My job as minority leader is to make sure Save Our Stages is in that bill without any cutback. So, we get this done. It means billions of dollars, thousands and thousands of jobs, keeping our artists working, or at least having some income until we can open up again. And here's Broadway's numbers. I'm going to repeat them because they're so huge. The industry contributed close to $15 billion to New York's economy last year, 2018-19. Supported 100,000 jobs, good-paying jobs. That's a lot of jobs. That's more jobs than most cities have. And, of course, it attracts millions and millions of people from all over the country and all over the world. So, we need to get this done, and we're going to get it done. Here's what I ask all of you to do. Your lists, lists of theatergoers, your lists of fans, your lists of supporters, whatever lists you have, just email them and tell them to email their senator and say, we need you to support Save Our Stages, and we will get this done. So thank you, everybody. It's great to be here. It's great to be back for a moment on Broadway. And let me call the heart and soul of the Broadway League, Charlotte St. Martin.
Can you see why we love this man so much? He's got all the razzle-dazzle of New York City. He gets arts and he gets Broadway. And honestly, he just gets us and he gets it. We so appreciate everything you do, Senator. The Broadway League is working to restart the industry, and we simply can't do it by just flipping on a light switch. Unfortunately, that would be great, but that's not the way it's going to work. And that's why we're so proud of this bipartisan bill, and it's so important. Productions need funding for rehearsal that we can get people back because they haven't been performing for over 9 months at least, to make thousands and thousands of cast members and get them back and get them working, to refurbish and reinstall the very highly technical sets that we have, and of course to prepare our theaters for the audiences around the country. And in order to rebuild the theatrical industry, there must be a supply of new work that will fill the pipeline to fill the theaters all over this country, because when it starts in New York, it goes around the country. To help support this industry during this extended closure, members of the Broadway League across the United States have been in regular communications with their elected officials, including senators and congresspeople, to educate them on the state of the country and our industry, the financial toil the shutdown has taken on all of our workers and performing arts centers, and the countless businesses that rely on us to go on. SOS, as you just heard from the senator, is a bill that will help get our theaters open, people working, and our local businesses thriving. The League has also been working with our labor organizations and industry coalitions to increase and to get enhanced and extended the unemployment insurance and subsidized COBRA benefits to help all of those workers who are out of work through no fault of their own. We will continue to diligently work on this in this area, and we will be asking again and again for you to write your senators and write your congresspeople and get all of the people you know to do that. We want to bring the magic of theater and of Broadway back to this country. Thank you.
This is remarkable actress, director, creator, writer Shelley Williams.
Thank you, Senator Schumer, for being here today and for always having our backs. As theater people, we are used to gathering to celebrate, to share, and to heal. And we've not been able to do that since March, and it is unclear when we will be able to do that again. It has been devastating both financially and spiritually. But we are all committed to reviving the theater industry and bringing back this vital component to our country's cultural landscape and to our lives. You've heard how important it is for not only New York to return, but the country from a jobs and economic standpoint. But as I stand here in Times Square, it is vitally important to acknowledge the disparate impact this pandemic has had on artists and artisans and recognize the need to extend unemployment benefits. Broadway will be back. Telling our stories is how we grow and how we dare to dream. We need the stories that authentically reflect who we are and who we aspire to be, now more than ever on our American stages. We need Broadway to bring us all back together again. It will require a tremendous effort for theaters to restart, and it will take longer than we would all hope. That is why now we need our government to support the Save Our Stages Act, or SOS as it is aptly named. We are so thankful to Senator Schumer for co-sponsoring this important act and advocating for us. SOS can help us raise the curtains again, and by doing so, help so many of my colleagues, my coworkers, my friends, and an entire industry that I am so blessed to be a part of. Our nation and our industry are in desperate need of recovery for both our workers and our communities. By saving our stages, we can accomplish both those things. Thank you, Senator Schumer, for co-sponsoring the Save Our Stages Act. This act will support 97,000 employees impacted by the lasting effects of the pandemic on Broadway and bring back the heartbeat to the greatest city in the world. Thank you.
Well said. Well said. Okay, we'll take questions, but on this subject only. Yes. Just got to talk a little louder. Well, you know, the question that was asked by this nice lady in her giraffe mask? Cow mask. I'm animal blind, I guess. Is when would I feel comfortable coming back to Broadway? And I'd say the bottom line is we all want to listen to the medical experts. We don't want someone telling us yes or someone telling us no. The medical experts know when it's safe, God willing, when there's a vaccine that works, and people can be vaccinated, that seems like the right time, but I won't come back until the medical experts say we can. But once they say we can, I'm not hesitating. I'm buying tickets and showing up on Broadway. Other questions? Yes. What is the likelihood of getting a bill passed? The likelihood's getting better. You'd be amazed. There were 20 conservative Republicans who wanted us in the Senate who wanted to spend no money, none, zero, on anything. Not on any unemployment benefits. I helped write the pandemic unemployment benefit bill that included gig workers and freelancers and part-timers. No money for our state and local governments, no money to make our schools safe, nothing. And they have held things up in the Senate. The House passed a robust bill. And if that bill were to be put on the floor of the Senate by Leader McConnell, the Minority Leader has complete power to determine what goes on the floor and what doesn't. It would pass. It would pass. But now there's been some good news, some good changes. First, President Trump at least has said that the Senate Republicans have been too stingy and we need a bigger bill. That's a good sign. And there's huge pressure from every part of America saying, get the HEROES Act, which we will make sure includes the Save Our Stages provision, as well as a larger unemployment, $600 back to the way it was, passed. So the odds are getting better. If, God forbid, it doesn't happen, and we have a new president and a new majority leader, who might be me, we will make sure it happens. Well, it depends what the bill is, but if we got the support from the president, I think almost all Democrats would support the HEROES bill. So you need 13 Republicans. If Trump would support it, it would probably happen. Yes, this gentleman and then this lady. Well, you know, again, the sooner we have a vaccine and the more comprehensive and safe it is, the quicker we can open. And so, again, I'd leave that up to the medical experts, but I disagree with you. When Broadway reopens and we're all safe and ready to go, it's going to come back bigger, better, and stronger than ever. It will not be reduced. And the same thing that has happened for, when did the first theater open? Wasn't on Broadway, I guess. It must have been way down. Anyway, the same thing that's happened for centuries, that people will flock to New York to work on Broadway, to perform on Broadway, and to see shows on Broadway, will be as strong as ever. This is temporary. It's tough, but we're not giving up hope. We're fighting the fight, and we will come back, just like New York will come back. Yes, ma'am. Tell them, get some Republican senators to start saying they're going to support legislation like the HEROES Act. It passed the House overwhelmingly, plain and simple. Yes. I'm going to stick to the federal issues. Yes. How's your sister? She's a twin. Well, this supports all life stages, you know, big and small. There are many different kinds, and as I said, they're urban, they're suburban, they're rural. They're usually the heartbeat, the culture. It's a huge economic issue, as you've heard, but it's also an issue of giving us happiness and life and feeling good about things. The arts have always played a very special role in society. But even in upstate cities like Albany and Syracuse, the arts is one of the 5 top employers. Yes. Hi. In the bill, there is help for restaurants, not just, this is Save Our Stages, but there's similar help for restaurants and for the hospitality industry, which is hurting. We have to help these people at this moment. There are some people in Congress who are like Herbert Hoover. Do you remember Herbert Hoover? The stock market crashed, and they said the government should do nothing. Let the private sector do it, and we had the Great Depression. The private sector, we love the private sector. Broadway's the private sector. But they can't do it on their own. They need, at this point, only the federal government can help. And that's what I'm trying to get done. We got it done in the first bill, the CARES bill. There was 8 weeks of pandemic unemployment insurance because at that point everyone thought, well, maybe COVID will be gone, but it's much longer. It's a much more evil, persistent virus than we thought, so we need to expand the kind of help we need. Yes. Well, revenue lost in terms of taxes, sales tax, and everything else is very large. And another thing we're fighting over in the HEROES bill is money for New York State and money for New York City to deal with all their lost revenues so they won't have to lay off people. We could see if we could get them for you. The league will get it to you, but there are close to 100,000 people employed on Broadway. Hardly any are employed now. Now, some are still getting paid by COVID or by something, by unemployment insurance or whatever, but big loss, huge loss. Okay, thank you, everybody. Broadway will be back, and we will pass our legislation.